Welcome to KNBR tonight. Dieter Kurtenbach hanging out with you until 11 p.m. I don't think that was the singular best game that the Giants have pitched this year, but it is certainly in the running. An outstanding performance from the Giants bullpen. A tough spot, no doubt, for the Giants bullpen. Hey, we got to start a series. One of the better teams in baseball. Give us everything you got from the get-go. 4-game set, first game, bullpen game. Could have gone off the rails in 6-7 different spots. And instead, Giants relievers mow down the Brewers, giving up only 4 hits on the night. And then the Giants bats come alive in the 8th with the kiddos at the bottom of the order getting the job done. Giving the Giants a 5-0 win over the Brewers. They are 25-25 on the season. I've said it all year. Ups and downs. It's been mostly downs. Now we're up. This team had 500 written all over it. But it's a positive, optimistic 500. I can't believe I'm saying this. That's not my general nature. But when you got the bullpen pitching well, you have some starters that you can trust and rely upon, but you're not pushing it with, the 4th, 5th guys. And you got some youngsters that are giving your lineup life. You got Gabe Kapler out there tinkering. Now, he's a tinkerer. He wants to tinker. Can't really do that much in the modern game with the DH and all. But he's finding ways to put his imprint on the game, and that's a positive. Because when he does that, the Giants seem to win. It's not that much fun for the layperson. It's not that much fun seeing micromanagement, but damn, Gabe Kapler's a pretty good micromanager. He's at his best as a manager when he is micromanaging. He's able to do that today. And yes, it's May 25th. And yes, these bullpen games do have a bit of a tail on them. But you got to like what you've seen from the Giants as of late, and you got to love what you saw from them tonight. That game was 1-0 for the majority of it. Did it feel like you were on the edge at all? It felt very comfortable for a 1-0 game. That's informative. That's interesting. That says that there's a level of trust that maybe we didn't all consciously come to with this San Francisco Giants team, but it's been earned over these last couple of weeks as this team has clawed back up to 500. And by the way, if you play 500 baseball, even into September, you're in good stead. I don't think anyone came into this season expecting the Giants are going to win the division, baby. Not with the Padres, though the Padres are a dud. And not with the Dodgers, even though we thought the Dodgers might come back a little bit. Turns out, get this, they're pretty good. 500 baseball is just fine. And 500 baseball is actually better than just fine when you got a guy like Casey Schmidt in the bottom of the order, driving in runs like he did tonight. When you got a guy like Patrick Bailey, what a revelation he is. We knew that the Giants have been high on Patrick Bailey for years. This is Farhan Zaidi's guy. I can see why he likes him. I can see why Patrick Bailey has been touted as the real deal Holyfield since they drafted him. He is an outstanding defensive catcher. He was stealing strikes from a very good home plate umpire, I should note. This is not a home plate umpire that's easily fooled. And Patrick Bailey was getting pitches that he shouldn't have gotten. Add in the fact that the guy can hit. The Giants have some questions that they have to get answered at the catcher position here when Joey Bart comes back from the IL. Because Joey's got to still get his at-bats. We still got to find out what Joey Bart is. But you got Blake Sable, a Rule 5 guy. Somebody that Farhan has openly come out and said he's staying on the roster. And yes, he can play some left field, but do you really want to send Patrick Bailey back down? We'll see. There's some time. We'll figure this thing out. Nothing has to be decided today. But at this moment, I'm having a very hard time making the argument that anyone else should be catching the majority of the days than Patrick Bailey. Just defensively, he changes the game. The bat coming through with some plus swings. He looks really confident up there. He certainly knows how to be a professional hitter. He's caught professional pitchers. I'm really liking what I'm seeing. I hope this stays the same. Hell, it can even get better. I hope there isn't a drop-off here as we see some from so many young players. And maybe the Giants just carry 3. And Sable moves around the outfield, and you find spots for him here or there. We know he's not the best defensive guy, and that's understandable given his back history. We know that Joey Bart DH for this team? I don't really know about that. There's some questions that need to be answered. But right now, Patrick Bailey is playing so well that it's become a bit of a conundrum. These are the good problems that you like to have. It means that positive things are happening for the San Francisco Giants. I want to make a quick note here. This is not something that's going to get talked about a lot. I know they didn't really mention it that much on the post-game wrap, and I can't blame anybody. But I thought Sean Manaea had his A-plus stuff tonight. And that is frustrating in a way because it's far too often that he's going up there and just putting it on a tee. I mean, when it goes bad, it goes all the way bad for a Sean Manaea. I think it's too early to say that a new role is changing anything for him. He's gotten blown up in short stints before. But I'm starting to wonder, just getting a hint, starting to wonder if maybe this guy's best role isn't as a 6th, 7th inning guy coming in against left-handed heavy lineups. Maybe turn him into your lefty stopper. Because as much as I like the idea that the Giants went for early in the season saying, hey, we'll go with a Junis, Manaea, piggyback situation, the Johnny Holstaff game where everyone sort of stays in their role a little bit, they're certainly more engaged. We'll hear from John Brebbia. He talked about that at the end of the game. Kind of get up for these games, these Johnny Holstaff games. This team was certainly really good at them a couple years ago when they won 107. Hell, it seemed like the entire month of September were Johnny Holstaff games. There's something positive to that. There's something just about the San Francisco Giants team and organization that lends itself to those kind of games. Maybe Sean Manaea isn't a guy who you look at for bulk innings anymore. Maybe two, 2 2/3, something like that. But I think maybe a shorter role where he can just lay on the gas when he comes out there. Because that fastball velocity is real these days. Maybe that's something that really suits the Giants, and I think it suits the bullpen as well. I don't think that you lose much by going that route. Yes, it'd be ideal to have a guy that you can trust to just take on the pack for a while, but Jacob Junis is pretty damn good at that job too. And they got some guys in the pen that I think can handle that role. Maybe a little bit of less could be more for Sean Manaea. I don't know if today was a hint of what's to come in that regard, but I loved what I saw from him today. That said, I mean, where do we start? It probably shouldn't be Sean Manaea. Alexander comes in great. Both of the Rodgerses were really good. I mean, who had trouble? It was Junis, and he barely had trouble. This was a low-key game, all things considered. I mean, Brebbia comes in, he pitches 2 innings, 2 hits. He never felt like he was in trouble. Really, really good game for the Giants bullpen. And I think it lends itself to something that I've been saying since I was 11 years old. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. Hawk Harrelson used to say this, and I think it's truer now than it ever has been. Bullpens win divisions. It's all about the bullpen. Yes, starting pitchers are huge, and yes, you need to hit the ball. I get all that. But if you don't have a reliable bullpen, if you don't have a bullpen that you can trust to do something like they did tonight every now and again, once every 10 or so games, if you don't have a bullpen like that you just have confidence in, if you're having to ask questions in the 7th inning every night, if you're having to ask questions in the 9th inning every night, if you don't have guys who can fit roles, you're constantly shuffling. I don't know how you can be a successful baseball team in this modern era. Starting pitchers don't go as long as they used to. I think last year was the first time more bullpen innings than starter innings. Bullpens win divisions. And over the last, 6, 7 games, unbelievable bullpen from the San Francisco Giants. They came into tonight's game with a 0.004 ERA over their last 7 games, and they knocked it down. They lowered a 0.74 ERA. They've been nails. And honestly, it makes some sense. This is a regression to the mean in the truest sense. They're coming up to where they should be. When we came into this season, I know that expectations always don't become reality. But when we came into this season, the expectation was, well, the lineup's a little We could use a little star power. Feels like it's missing something. You're asking a lot from guys who haven't given a lot as of late. The starting pitching, you feel really good about the top guys. I mean, you can see the plus of a Cobb. Certainly the Giants were betting big on him. He's come through. You're hoping that Logan Webb doesn't regress at all, given where he's at. And he hasn't. I think he's been absolutely fantastic, though it is a shame that his start got pushed back a couple of days, though we do get a wonderful pitching matchup on Saturday with him and Corbin Burns. My goodness. This poor guy keeps ending up against the other team's ace. What's up with that? It's like college baseball over here. Alex Wood will give you some really plus starts, though Gabe doesn't really trust him to go deep, and that's understandable. Anthony DeSclafani, I have some concerns after the last game for sure, but he has been one of the better pitchers in baseball, not just on the Giants staff, in baseball this season. So the upside is there. Now, the question is what happened with that damn piano bench and what happened to his fastball velocity against Minnesota, because let me put it to you this way. The delta between the fastball going in and the fastball going out was significant. It was like 20 miles per hour in Minnesota. So something to keep an eye on there. That would be a real shame for the Giants if their best pitcher all season, that's a stretch, but one of their best pitchers all season, one of the guys that they could really count on, one of the three guys that they were trusting at the top of the rotation, if he falls off. Because then someone's got to step up, and I don't know. I don't know who that is. Maybe it's Kyle Harrison. We're getting to that point, folks. This is a 500 baseball team, but it's such a different 500 baseball team than the team that we looked at the beginning of the season and said they should win about as many as they can lose, because it has this bullpen and there's new arms coming in every day. And this, more than anything else, is a representation of what Farhan Zaidi's been trying to build. I'll be the first one to tell you, it hasn't gone great. It hasn't been everything it was billed out to be. But they still won 107 not that long ago. They've been in on the big-name free agents. I got some questions about how in. And they've found a really effective way of winning games, right? I think any owner in baseball would love to have Farhan Zaidi as their GM because he can do a lot with a little. Now, is that necessarily what you want in a big market? A larger conversation to have some other time. And we've had it before, certainly. That's what the offseason's for, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see how this season goes. The 500 team we were looking at the beginning of the season, not terribly exciting. Now, it had to play out, and you're always going to find some cult heroes and all that, but you saw a lot of walks. You saw a lot of platoons. You saw some good starting pitching. You saw some good bullpen, but was anything about it like, oh, buy your tickets now, folks? I don't think so. And we've said as much. And I don't think that adding a Casey Schmidt or a Patrick Bailey totally changes everything. But right now, there's some juice to this squad. The bullpen is lights out. You can hang your hat on that in Major League Baseball in 2023. The bullpen's lights out. I know no one buys tickets to games for the bullpen, but it certainly keeps the TV on. And then you want to see what Casey Schmidt does. You want to see if this guy's ever going to walk. I think it's hilarious. I'm not the biggest fan of the walk, but the dude hasn't walked yet. That said, he smacks the baseball around. Keep on doing that, Casey. Pepper in a walk every now and again, you got something special. Adding a plus glove, I think, as well. I like what he's doing in the field. And by the way, the Giants have been really good in the field this year, that game against the Twins notwithstanding. And that's a positive as well. Patrick Bailey is a joy to watch. A joy. This is somebody who I think the casual fan and the die-hard keeping score off the radio fan can really get behind. Maybe this is just the San Francisco market. Maybe this is the Buster Posey aftermath. I don't know. But this town loves a catcher. It really does. And the catcher's the one guy who's involved in every play. Every play. If he goes 9 innings, he's involved in every single play. You give me a catcher who can hit, a catcher who can control a staff the way that Patrick Bailey seems to control a staff. Maybe I'm just a nerd. That's box office to me, baby. Now, I have never felt this way about Joey Bart. I like Joey Bart. He definitely deserves some more at-bats. Let's see what this guy's got. But, man, every time he seems to get going, he gets injured. That's a tough break for everybody. So you got to get some run with Joey Bart. You got to find out what's happening with him. You have to know if this is a dude that you're going to be able to count on in the years to come, or if you should just admit, hey, it didn't work out. Last regime, let's move on. Because you know the guy is going to be Bailey in the not-too-distant future, if it's not today. The Sable thing's a weird mess. I don't know what to do with the Sable thing. I get it. You don't want to lose a guy in Rule 5. I get all that. But you got the catcher right now. Let's see how long he can do it for. Let's see how he does once the scouting report starts to get out on him. There's a lot of things that happen. I mean, James Outman in L.A. was having an absolute monster season. He was going to win National League MVP. Then May rolled around. You got to give it some time. But my goodness, what a joy he is to watch. I can't take my eyes off him, mainly because he's in the center of the screen. But he's a really enjoyable player. And again, I can see why the San Francisco Giants have been saying, verbatim, I quote, just wait. Patrick Bailey's the real deal. Might not be flashy, but in this market, to Giants fans, this is the kind of guy that they love. I know that you're all about Patrick Bailey right now. And the fact that you got a couple guys who you're like, I want to see what they do every night. Let's see how the kids play. Because they've certainly earned their spots in the lineup. That's for sure. But now you got a little bit of future upside. Now you can extrapolate a little bit as you watch the game. Hey, this is fun. I'm in on the ground level of maybe something really good and interesting and cool. That's a lot better sell than, Michael Conforto's here for a year. It's a lot bigger sell than as much as I wanted to see him come back. Carlos Rodon, there's a lot of mercenaries that have come through on this team. A lot of guys who the Giants have signed, and they've gotten great stuff out of them, or even just above average stuff out of them, and then bye-bye. They fade away. If you're going to be box office, you got to spend big, right? Think about the movie industry right now. This is entertainment after all. The movie industry, what do? The tried and trues, big, flashy explosions, kapow. How many Fast and Furious are there now? People keeping going to see them because they know what they can expect. Hey, no one's going there expecting to see the best adapted screenplay movie. They want to see some stuff explode. They want to have a good time. They know the characters. They're comfortable with what's happening. They know exactly what they're going to get. Is it the best? No, but it's fun. You can build a baseball team that way. This is the New York Yankees model. By the way, hasn't won a World Series in a long time. You can build a baseball team that way. The other way you can do it is you can go young, and you can make people feel like they're getting in on the ground level of something. Now, the kicker is you can't do what the Oakland A's have done and then just get rid of those guys and start again. You have to build all the way up. You can't just stop at the 10th floor of a 30-floor building and say, no, we're good here. We're good here. And the Giants should know about this. They're into the real estate game, unlike, the A's.
What?
I don't know what floor we're on right now, and I don't know how long Casey Schmidt can get away with not walking. It's incredible. This is like a guy not going to the free throw line for 2 months. So, Al Horford. Patrick Bailey, I love watching him. I don't know how long he's going to stay up. I don't know if the Giants can afford to keep him up. He's the one guy with options of their catcher logjam. But there's positives, and it's a positive that makes you feel like, hey, I can hang out with this team for a while now. I feel like I'm seeing something that has some real potential. And when you're selling hope, because that's what it is, it's hope. Hey, we're at 500 now, but imagine where we could be in a couple of years. You sell hope, that's more potent than box office. That's the good stuff. And I'm starting to get a little bit of hope here with the San Francisco Giants. I don't think they're going to be much better than 500. Maybe 5. If they're really lucky, 10 games over. I don't think they're winning the World Series. I don't think they're winning the playoff series. I don't think any of that stuff. But I think that they can end this season as a success because the direction could be clear. And it's starting to come into focus now that, hey, that farm system that has been lauded and then kind of fell back a little bit, it's producing some dudes. You're seeing the bullpens. You're seeing the arms out in the bullpen. You're seeing the fruits of the labor in the field now. there's a little bit of hope. There's a little bit of upside. And when you're comparing that to the other kind of 500 team, the one that we saw last year, where it was just a bunch of dudes who were hanging out here for a good time, sort of, not for a long time, definitely. I'll take this one 10 times out of 10, and I'll take a game like tonight, which was just riveting from the first pitch to the final out, if for no other reason than it had to be, because who the hell knows who's pitching the next inning? I'll take a game like tonight over damn near any other game the Giants have played this year, and they've played some damn good ones over the last couple of weeks. We'll break it all down with Danny Emmerman in a little bit. I want to hear from Gabe Kapler, what he had to say about tonight's game. Gabe managed a marvelous, marvelous game. He is, listen, I know we like to get on Gabe. He's not bad at this. I don't know. He can rub us wrong a little bit, but he's not bad at this. He's just not a Philadelphia guy. We'll hear from Gabe Kapler on the other side of the break. By the way, Matt Barrows going to join us to talk some 49ers OTAs, and then an absolutely loaded Best of KNBR today on KNBR Tonight. We're live on YouTube and on Twitch. Dieter Kurtenbach in for FP until 11 p.m. on the Sports Leader.
to the sports leader anywhere, anytime. Download the all-new KNBR app. Now, KNBR Tonight continues live from the KNBR Casino Matrix Studio. Casino Matrix Progressive Jackpots are here. Where are you? Just drop in. Please play responsibly. 1-800-GAMBLER.
We're back with you. The sports leader, Dieter Kurtenbach, until 11 p.m. It might be a stretch here. But the thing I'll remember most about this Giants game tonight didn't actually happen during the game. I'm sitting on the Bay Bridge. I'm coming in. And I thought I had a brain aneurysm. I thought I had lost my marbles. I thought that my phone was doing something funny. Turns out I'm just listening to FM radio, so I don't know what I could have done wrong. My Google Maps is like, oh dear, well, calm down. I don't know what's going on here. If you didn't hear the national anthem tonight, please rise and remove your hat for what is legitimately one of the most patriotic renditions of all time. If we could get through this RAF, thank you.
The bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there.
Great Charlie Steiner on the back end. We have the Carl Lewis national anthem. It was a Bulls-Nets game in the Meadowlands where gold medalist Carl Lewis decided he was singing the anthem. Here you go. Not bad, right? Just listen. What is that? Needless to say, Carl Lewis, better runner than he is a singer. And then of course, this one near and dear to our hearts in the Bay Area because Draymond Green got in some real trouble for stating the obvious. Draymond had that terrible habit of never being wrong for a long time. That's changed ever since he got into the podcast game. Maybe that's fallen off a bit, but the Fergie national anthem, the All-Star game, this was, yeah. You missed the let's play some basketball rap. There it is. Land of the Brie, home of the rave. So that's how we started the game.
Okay.
Great call there from FP. Why do they do that before the games, man? I get it, a certain level of... That's not respectful. It's not respectful to the troops or anyone who... no, that seems counterproductive to the goal previously stated of doing the national anthem before games. Did she say let's play some baseball after that? I wonder if anyone asked Gabe Kapler about that after the game. If I was still on a beat, thank God I'm not, much less a baseball beat. But if I was still on a beat, that would be my first question, being the smart ass that I am. Gabe, strong performance. Bullpen was great. You got to like what you saw from Bailey and Schmidt. And my God, Conforto, 4 for 4. Fantastic stuff. What'd you think of the anthem, Gabe?
That sounds pretty gross.
We're going to pivot. We got to pivot. I'll go on for hours. I loved the lineup from Gabe Kapler tonight. I thought that the lineup, and 559 checking in, agreeing with me on this, I thought the batting order today was really solid. Now, listen, I'm not going to come out here and say, the batting order won the Giants the game. But it feels as if over the last couple of months, maybe even since the start of the season, though it was early in the season, not the start of it. It feels like Gabe is coming to terms a little bit with the fact that the Platoon Saloon has been shut down, that you can't really manage the lineup the way that you want to manage the lineup. And in fact, tinkering probably does more harm than good. I mean, we saw what the Brewers did today, removing Darren Ruff and all that. Is that really in the best interest? Let the guy go up there and hit against the same-handed pitcher every now and again. Is it going to be the best at bat? Probably not. But he's a professional, damn it. And credit to the Giants. They have enough professionals that they can ride through those waves now. They can say, Mike Yastrzemski, go up there. There's a lefty, no problem. I'm feeling good about the fact that Gabe Kapler's letting go a little bit. I know I said earlier he's at his best when he's micromanaging, but that's with the bullpen. That's when he's on top of it. There's not much managing to do with the batting lineup these days, not with the DH, and not with the way that bullpens are deployed with the 3-out rule. Simply put, you got to kind of set it and forget it. Now, you can tinker in late inning situations, but you're truly pinch hitting, maybe a forward-looking defensive replacement, getting a bat in here or there, but the double switch is dead. There's no more double switching anymore. You can't even do the pitcher, you can't even do some of the crazy switches that they were doing back in 2021. Like, you have to set it and forget it. And I know that that's not as interesting. I know that Giants fans loved the strategy of the game. There's still plenty of strategy. There really is. And in fact, this is probably a good thing for the Giants because it gets Gabe out of his own way when it comes to the batting lineup. And he can focus on the pitchers. And that's where he thrives. I know that he's not going to get it right every time, but I think he has a pretty good read on his pitchers. And I think that especially he knows who to call and when. I never truly doubt Gabe Kapler when he makes the call to the pen and gives the ball to somebody. I feel like that's the right call. Now, how long he keeps that guy in, we can have disagreements. It's never going to be perfect. Even Boch had these problems. Like, he's as good a bullpen manager as there has ever been in the history of baseball, and he's proven it again this year with Texas, who's having an outstanding season. Get this, the guy might have been pretty good. I might not have given him every bit of his due, even on the way out. I thought Gabe managed a really good game. Obviously, you have to when you have a bullpen game like that. The manager's going to have something to do with it. He called the right guys at the right time. That is a strong suit of his, and I thought that he was able to do that because he set it and forget it with the lineup. Yes, there was some tinkering. Yes, there a couple pinch it, whatever. It was a staggered lineup. It protected the Giants if Julio Teheran didn't have a great game. He did, I think, have a really good game. I don't think that was because of the lineup. I think that the Giants were just swinging through a lot of pitches that they probably should have been hitting. That happens. It's baseball. First game, new town, all that jazz. I liked what I saw. Let's hear from Gabe Kapler, what he had to say to the traveling media after the game.
I think a good indication of how Conforto's feeling at the plate is how ready he is for fastballs early in the count. Saw that obviously throughout the game today. It's been locked in for a little while now. Just hanging in there against a tough lefty like Colby Milner. It's a good signal. He feels confident at the plate, doing really good work across the board. Sure he's pleased. We're all pleased with it too.
It's not so small of a sample size now from your bullpen these past 10 games. How can you explain just the sea change in performance?
Obviously, Minaya was big for us tonight, and Minaya getting back on track is going to be a pretty important thing for our season this year. But Raj has been good all year long. Obviously, Camilo at the end of games has been shut down. We've seen Rebbia's stuff tick up here recently. It's just really good carry on the fastball and a nice sharp slider, ability to get in the zone with those pitches. These strategies tend to work when pitchers do a great job and are really bought in. For example, Ute Rogers before the game was very comfortable coming out there behind Scott Alexander, which is huge for us because once we get their lineup and we see that the bottom part of their lineup is best for one of our lefties, it's really nice to be able to have that flexibility to go to Tay and then use Junis and Minaya later in the game. Kind of gives us a lot of mix and match options, but really the bullpen is responsible for the recent wins in these types of games, and it's because they're doing a great job out there.
How big was that catch by Yastrzemski there in the first inning to keep the game scoreless early up against one of your former guys?
Good momentum builder. Very familiar sight with Darren Ruff driving the ball off a left-handed pitcher to the middle of the field, and I thought Yaz played the wall really well there. You saw him get close to the wall and then sort of take a sideways route to be able to time that jump, and very athletic. We see him do that a lot at Oracle Park when we're back home, especially in right field. But I think he enjoys those moments. He does them very well.
You've talked a lot about maybe adding speed as an element. You've shown the team's shown that at places, but 4 steals tonight, Schmitz sets up the first run. How important is that tonight, getting things going?
Yeah, I mean, it's really a testament to the base runners. They're getting good jumps, and they're picking up on some things with opposing pitchers along the way. Not just tonight, or not exclusively tonight, but throughout the season. And a lot of that is the work that Antoine's done, helping them pick those up at first base. Obviously, that's Estrada, that's Casey Schmidt, it's Michael, getting that big jump. Lamont, really nice job out there as well. it's nice when we can win games in a bunch of different ways. And sometimes it's with the pen, sometimes it's stealing bases and staying out of double plays, and sometimes it's with the long ball. Tonight, I think, was a combination of all of those things.
Lead on Scott more than anyone but Camilo over the stretch. What does he mean?
Yeah, I mean, dating back to last year, he's been one of our best relievers, and so dependable because he's such a good strike thrower. I mean, he really leans on one pitch pretty heavily. It's a sinker. Today he mixed in a really good slider to a right-handed hitter, and that's a good signal that he can get even better. It's exciting, and as you mentioned, we really depend on Scott. Big part of our pen.
When you mentioned the light, an important part of getting this to work, how much selling have you had to do to get that light? Especially with guys like Rogers and Manaea, who maybe weren't necessarily signed to bases locations.
Yeah, I mean, I really think the guys have been flexible. Today, there wasn't really much selling happening. These guys just stepped up and were ready for the roles. And it's the way it works best is when players, pitchers, think about games as team events and not about necessarily what's perfectly ideal for them. Guys become selfless, and then they really start to root for each other. One guy feeds off the energy of the last guy's performance, maybe feels a little bit additional accountability to also perform, and I just think that's what leads to a good team environment where people are kind of doing the two things simultaneously that we always talk about, supporting each other and then raising the bar for each other.
Interesting stuff there from Gabe Kapler. Let's start with Michael Conforto, 4 for 4 from the plate tonight, and absolutely murdered at baseball. I mean, there's a felony warrant out for what he did to that baseball. Disgusting. One of those hits where the outfielders didn't have to move. I mean, if you've seen enough baseball, you just know that ball's never going to land. Sweet swing on it, too. Whew, that was good stuff. Listen, Conforto, Haniger, it has not been ideal to date, certainly for Haniger. And to Conforto, up until the last 2 or 3 weeks, I mean, this guy was hitting 168 on May 9th. But this is where the analytics really do help. I know that people roll their eyes at this stuff. I like to keep baseball pretty simple if I can. But the advanced numbers do tell a valid story when it comes to Mitch Haniger. When it comes to Michael Conforto. Haniger's a different story. When it comes to Conforto, what is happening now was inevitable. The numbers bore that out. He was supposed to be hitting like this the entire time. He just had a really low batting average on balls in play. It's like 260. That's not appropriate for the amount of barrels that he has, the hard hit percentage that he has. He's in the top quarter of all of baseball in hard hit baseballs. And yet, his batting average on balls in play is around 260 in a league that doesn't have the shift anymore. What he's doing now is inevitable. He's barreling the ball. He sees a lot of pitches. He sees more than 4 pitches every at-bat. Hard hit percentage is very high. He strikes out plenty, don't get me wrong. The whiff percentage is pretty high, all that stuff. Not the best outfielder in the world. But what he is doing now, the streak that he has been on, highlighted no doubt by tonight's game, was inevitable. He was doing the same thing then as he's doing now. He's starting to get results. And here's the deal. He's now a 240 hitter, 340 on base percentage. It's about an 810 OPS. This guy is a career 824 OPS guy who at his best is around 900. This is what the San Francisco Giants signed up for. It didn't start off great. Again, a couple weeks ago, he's batting 168. But when Gabe Kapler talks about the process, talks about the things like, well, we like his at-bats. We really like his at-bats. When he talks about stuff like that, it's easy to dismiss. It feels like he's avoiding the question. It feels like he's pumping up a dude's tires. But it really was true with Michael Conforto. And by the way, if he was doing the right thing at the beginning of the season, and he's doing the right thing now, and he's starting to get results, what's to say he won't continue to do the right thing moving forward? What's to say that these numbers can't keep creeping up and maybe he does get to that 900 OPS mark that he got to when he was at his best with the New York Mets? There's no reason to think that this guy can't keep chipping away at what was a pretty rough start to the season and a lot of unlucky bits of contact because he's smoking the baseball, smoking it. And then Gabe said something else interesting there. Before we get to Danny Emmerman, I want to get this in. When you have a bullpen game, guys become selfless. Does that remind you of anything? Does that remind you of an energy from a certain recent San Francisco Giants team? The 2021 San Francisco Giants were selfless, right? No superstars. Just dudes going out there getting the job done. Who the hell are these guys? They were a collective. They were a team. Is that going to win you the World Series? Probably not. But again, we're not just selling wins and losses. You're selling something more when you're putting out an entertainment product for 162 games a year plus playoffs, if they're so lucky. You got to sell some hope. You got to sell some collectivism. You got to sell something that people want to be part of. And if the Giants want to get back into that mode of playing selfless baseball, where it's not just a bunch of guys coming in, trying to get their numbers and getting the hell out, I don't know how long that can carry them. Maybe it could take them all the way, right to the finish line, right to the playoffs. Maybe. Maybe this is just a short-term thing. I don't know, but I'd like to see more of it. I like that energy. I like that identity for a team. Selfless. Because if you're not going to have the marquee middle-of-the-lineup guys, you might as well have people that everybody likes. And nobody likes a mediocre player acting like he's an all-star. I don't think that's the case with anybody on this Giants team. I really don't. But team unity, selflessness, these are things that you can market a little bit, that you can feel through your TV, and you certainly feel in the ballpark. Bullpen games, good for the soul. They're even better when you don't give up any damn runs. Let's talk to Danny Emmerman on the other side of the break. You listen to the KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader and a Cumulus media station. Curtain Bach until 11. Danny Emmerman next.
Here in the eighth for the Giants, still with that 1-0 lead as Conforto swings and launches it high and deep out to right center. This one on its way. It is gone. Michael Conforto on the first pitch of the eighth inning launches one, and it's 2-0 Giants.
KNBR Tonight continues. Live from the KNBR Grand Sierra Resort and Casino Studios. Here's your host, Dieter Kurtenbach, on The Sports Leader.
Back with you on The Leader. Dieter Kurtenbach until 11 p.m. Boston Celtics won 110-97. It was a complete ass whooping. The score not indicative of the margin. I don't know if we should be clapping for that, ref.
What?
We bring on the great Danny Emmerman of KNBR.com to talk about that. And, oh, yeah, the Giants won a game, too. Danny, how you doing, baby?
Peter, I'm doing well. It's always a pleasure. And might I just add, you look fantastic on our live stream.
What? There's cameras in here? No. Thank you, Danny. Appreciate it. The people can't see you, so you don't have to put on pants for this. What did you make? And by the way, I don't know if any of your pants are still intact after that Celtics game. Let's start with that. Are they going to do this thing? Are they going to make it happen?
Shades of 2004 Boston Red Sox, huh?
Don't let them win tonight.
Don't let them win tonight. They got PD on the mound tomorrow. Game 6 going back to Miami. All the pressure is on the Heat. I really think that Miami's running on fumes now. Down Gabe Vincent. They're down to like 6 players who can actually play. The Celtics kind of cracked the code a little bit on the zone. Tatum's playing great, facilitating early passes out of the double teams. Jimmy Butler's running out of steam. If any team is going to be able to do it, it's this Celtics team that was kind of a juggernaut during the regular season and is facing a team that had a negative point differential during the regular season. It's kind of all stacked up in the right direction for the Celtics.
Why is it that the Boston Celtics, throughout that regular season and now throughout this postseason, can't seem to lock in and give enough respect to their opponents and really wait until the last second? I mean, the team is not a 4-time champion and old like the Warriors, who generally had disrespect for their opponents. They're young, and I know Al Horford isn't. There's some guys that have some age on them, don't get me wrong, but like, they really haven't won anything. They won the Eastern Conference. They've been to the Eastern Conference Finals a bunch. They have no real trophies of worth in the collection with this group. And yet, I am completely stunned every time they put themselves in terrible situations. What the hell is it about them, Danny?
It's funny. They do carry themselves like they have won
They're so entitled.
A lot more than they have. But, they make it hard on themselves. It's true, though. Like, Jaylen Brown has been in the league 7 years. He's been in the Eastern Conference Finals 5 of those years.
Yeah.
These guys have played, meaningful basketball every single year. So to that end, I mean, they've been in real games. So they've been to this point before, and I think it does take a little bit for them to really get riled up and locked in, which is kind of funny to see from a team like you said hasn't won a title, but
Jason
it definitely
Tatum's like 12,
real.
and yet he's like, no.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. He's got that Draymond Green energy going. It's like, that's probably not going to serve you that well, but hell, if they come back from 3-0, maybe it did. Maybe they just have to see death before they understand how to live. I don't know. You want to talk some baseball? You want to talk about that impressive bullpen game from the San Francisco Giants, a bullpen that cannot be tamed, lowering their 0.74 ERA over the last 7 games tonight? Like, my goodness, you gotta love what you're seeing from the bullpen. What's changed for them? Why is it clicking for them right now?
So the biggest thing with the bullpen is when they were struggling, they didn't really have any outs. None of their guys in the bullpen are guys who are optionable. They're all veterans. Most of them are signed, like Taylor Rogers, they're signed to multiple-year deals. And all these guys were struggling so badly in the beginning stretch. The kind of only option was to hope it sorts itself out. And now, it has. Taylor Rogers has allowed 1 run in his last 13 outings. John Brebbia's fastball is the best it's ever been.
Yep.
They have a 1 ERA in the last 10 games, and that's been the biggest difference between this Giants team when they're struggling and when they're playing good ball. And this is the best stretch of their season so far. They've won 8 out of 10, and I'd credit, for doing,
give some flowers out.
They get the most credit for the stretch.
I got to say, though, I mean, when you have young players in the lineup that are performing, and Casey Schmidt's doing that despite being completely allergic to ball 4, which is incredible. I'm loving it. I really wonder how long we can keep this thing going for. And then Patrick Bailey, who I know it's early. I know he just got in here. Oh, he's a beautiful catcher. He is really good behind the plate, and you got to like what he's doing at the dish. When you got some youth in that lineup, and now you got a guy like Conforto getting results from, I think, the same process. I went through some of the advanced numbers. He was due for a run like this, given the way that he was barreling up the ball. I think there's some hope here. I'm not saying that they're going to go win the World Series or anything, But when you're looking at sort of the macro picture of the San Francisco Giants, there's stuff to get excited about, plus they're winning ball games.
I think that's all fair, yeah. I've never seen so much hype around a catcher just in terms of his pitch framing.
He's beautiful.
Every single pitch, you can watch his glove.
Listen,
and
Danny, you and I are both outsiders to this market. Buster Posey created a standard for catchers that is exceptionally high, Hall of Fame high. Nobody loves catchers more than San Francisco Giants fans. And this kid, I'm not calling him Buster Posey. I'm not doing that. I'm telling you flat out, I'm not doing that. Audience, Twitch, YouTube, whatever. Don't come at me. I'm not calling him Buster Posey. But a lot of the stuff you liked about Buster Posey, Patrick Bailey is doing early. We'll see how long he can do it. But, you're right on the hype of the pitch framing. It is a joy to watch. He was fooling a really good umpire tonight.
Yeah, I didn't really think the umpire had a good game either way tonight, but I think the biggest thing...
kind of catch-22 there.
The biggest thing with those two guys you mentioned, Casey Schmidt and Patrick Bailey, independent of how they play, you talk about selling hope and selling this team to fans.
Yeah.
Every single ball that's hit the left side of the infield, a slow dribble or a chopper, and then every pitch that's thrown to Patrick Bailey, it's like must-see TV. It's exciting baseball, and this is what people have been asking for. It's what they've waited a long time for. By their standards, it's not really that long in the grand scheme of things, but
yeah, they did win 107 not that long ago.
People have waited for this type of baseball, and when you're watching a game on TV or at the park, almost every single play, defense or offense, is going to be something to watch. And it's not just guys who are getting claimed off the waiver wire or former minor league free agents or exciting players, that might not be staying here forever. Right. It's homegrown guys, and they've been really impressive so far.
I don't want to go in on Mitch Haniger because he's only gotten like 90-something at-bats, but it hasn't looked great so far. What are you seeing when you see Haniger at the plate?
So you talked a little bit about Michael Conforto's, underlying metrics and his advanced stats. What I've seen from Haniger is a bit of the same thing. And I think his at-bats recently have gotten better, and he's been more competitive. I think he's fouling off some pitches in the zone. But just looking at his Savant page, he has a 42.9% hard hit rate. And that's, one of his highest in his careers. Mm-hmm. And he has the highest sweet spot rate he has in 5 years. He's hitting the ball hard when he hits it.
Danny, what's a sweet spot rate? You're just making stuff. What's the difference between a barrel and a sweet spot rate?
I think it has to do with launch angle.
Okay.
But if he connects and gets some of these balls into the air, I think the results will follow. And you have to expect, like Conforto, a little bit of a slow start and bake that in because he was coming off a couple injuries and a disrupted spring training. So I don't think Mitch Haniger is going to be a 190 hitter the whole year.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. Let's switch over to the pitching as we talk to the great Danny Emmerman, KNBR.com. Giants push Logan Webb back a little bit. They've done this before with Alex Cobb. I like the strategy. I don't think they lose anything by doing this strategy, but it does put the bullpen in a spot like they did tonight. I guess when it all works out the way it did tonight, you don't have to worry too much about the remainder of a 4-game series and what it means for the bullpen. But what did you make of them pushing back Logan Webb's start to Saturday against Corbin Burns and where that puts this Giants rotation, which is in a bit of flux, especially coming off that DeSclafani smashing in Minnesota?
I wouldn't read too much into pushing Logan back a little bit. He's dealing with a little bit of back tightness, and I think buying him a couple extra days is smart, especially when you've had so much success in bullpen games. They're 3-1 in games without a real starter. And so that's a tool that they don't really want to go to that often, but they know they have it in their back pocket. So I think that's useful, and I think it does help kind of line up the starting rotation, give guys an extra day when they can. And as you know, Logan has been terrific this year. Alex Cobb has been great. DeSclafani, outside of that one blow-up, has been really good. And, he's dealing with his own piano bench issues, but those seem to be stay away from piano benches in the studio if it helps.
Yeah, our Steinway's actually in the shop, so we're good on piano benches right now. Like, do you have a serious concern about whatever his Yamaha or his Steinway or his piano? But like, do you have a concern that the velocity was really down against Minnesota, and they weren't just hitting him; they were absolutely destroying the baseball against him? Like, given the fact that it was the same foot that he had injured not that long ago, like, I'm a little concerned about it, Danny.
The fact that it's the same foot is a little bit concerning. However, from what I've been told, it doesn't seem like a main concern for him going forward. If you want to get graphic, the toenail that was injured in the incident has already fallen off, and he keeps it in his locker, which is
thank you for that.
Bit of a baseball player quirk.
That's not a baseball player quirk. That's sicko energy. That's psychopath stuff, man. That's weird. Why is he doing that? Put that in the trash can. Put it in a biohazard bin. Why are you holding on to your big toenail? What are you going to do with that other than show Danny Emmerman when he walks past your locker like a weirdo? That's so weird. I'm sorry. I don't know what to make of that. What color was it?
There was a funny little video that the San Francisco Giants social media team did last week, where it was which position group has the most fun at parties. And I think the correct answer, I think like Alex Wood said, is the starting pitching group, because they only work once a week.
That's right.
And they have the most money. But I think some of those traits that would make them fun at parties also might, make them a little bit odd. And like I said, have some quirks. We can leave it at that.
Yeah, that's a different kind of frat. Let's put it that way. Yeah, I don't know if that's the frat party you go to on a Friday night if you're trying to get laid. We'll leave it at that, and we move forward. Brewers are a damn good baseball team. They didn't show it tonight, but they're still one of the better teams in baseball. But the Giants keep winning series. I'm looking at 25-25, 500 team. I think that if you were to have told me at the beginning of the season they'd be 25-25, I would have said, yeah, of course they are. Like, that's what this team is. What grade do you give them? Is it just a straight C and we move on, or are you going to give them a better or worse grade than the absolute middle of the pack average selection?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could give them a C. They're 25-25, coming off an 81-81 season.
Yeah,
they've been playing 500 ball for a year and a half for 125 games. If you are what your record says you are, then yeah, they can have a C. But I do think that their bones are there for them to turn it around and to play really good ball and to contend for a wild card spot. I've said that kind of the entire year, besides that one stretch when they lost 7 of 8.
Yeah, that was pretty
and I was a little bit concerned.
Then you're not pushing that narrative so much, are you? I get you. I don't blame you. That was bad baseball.
They have all the ingredients to make a playoff push. And I wrote this a couple of weeks ago. They got all the hard parts right, and that's building a young core. That is the type of core that teams tank for. It's Logan Webb and Camilo Doval and Schmidt and Bailey, and Estrada is one of the most valuable second basemen, and Lamont Wade's young and performing like one of the best first basemen in the league. That's hard to do.
Yep.
And if they can get all the other stuff in check, like the veterans they signed over the winter, Ross Stripling and Sean Manaea and Mitch Haniger, then, that's a really good ball club.
One last question for the great Danny Emmerman, KNBR.com. I liked what I saw from Manaea tonight. You can't say that every night from Sean Manaea. Do you think his role changes moving forward and he just becomes a lefty bullpen ace and not necessarily a bulk innings guy out of the pen?
I think it's possible. I was on with Kerry a few days ago, and he dropped a Drew Pomeranz. He dropped a Drew Pomeranz comparison.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Manaea.
That's pretty good. Kerry's a smart guy.
If he can perform like that out of the bullpen, I think that's a very valuable role. I also think he's overpaid for that kind of role. It's a very expensive Drew Pomeranz.
Well, Drew Pomeranz is very expensive these days, to be fair.
That's true. But if
you got a little,
if he can perform in that role, maybe he can graduate out of it. and become more of a bulk innings or a starter again. Because he is a starter at heart, and it's pretty much the only thing he's done as a big leaguer. And transitioning to the bullpen might not be easy for him.
Right.
But if he can do it and prove that the stuff is there and he gains some more confidence, maybe he'll return to the rotation. And that is probably the best case scenario for them.
Hey, I don't care how much. Like, legitimately, once the season starts, who cares how much they're paid? Like, what can you do for us? Because, yeah, it's perform or get DFA'd. It's not like anybody here is on some 9-year contract that they couldn't get out of in a million years. Like, save for Logan Webb, this is a bunch of dudes who are flexible in their positions. So if Sean Manaea can do what he did tonight on a consistent basis because of a role change, I say sign me up. But I'm neither the general manager nor the manager of the San Francisco Giants. I can say with certainty that Danny Emmerman, incredible sweet spot rate. Just really top-notch sweet spot rate, whatever the hell that means. You nailed it tonight, my friend. Thanks so much for coming on. Great insight as always. KNBR.com if you want more of Danny's stuff. And I don't know how you're not just rushing over there right now. Get a new tab as opposed to changing the URL on the current YouTube or Twitch stream. But Danny, thanks so much, man. And I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, but I need television entertainment. So go Celtics.
Always love coming on. Thanks a lot, Dieter.
The great Danny Emmerman, ladies and gentlemen. It was slim pickings the other night when we didn't have any basketball and hockey was over. Oh boy, it was not so much fun. I mean, listen, it was a blast watching the Denver Nuggets sweep the Los Angeles Lakers. Like, I enjoyed watching that series as a fan of sport, but with the way that both of the play, and I used to cover the Florida Panthers. I have a sweet spot for a lot of people still there. I really enjoyed watching that series, but it was 4 games. Did Vegas win tonight? The Golden Knights win tonight? We have to look this thing up. Regardless, not a long series between the Knights and the Dallas Stars. I'm looking it up. Hold on. Sorry. No, the Stars won. Hot damn, we get another game of hockey. By the way, Stanley Cup playoffs. Is there better entertainment in all of sports than Stanley Cup playoffs? I watched every minute.
Lee Hammer says no.
Of that 4 overtime game, Panthers and Hurricanes. No one scored a goal for 4 periods. And by the way, anyone wants to be like, oh, they don't score enough. I'd like to remind you that in football, 21-14 is really 3-2. Just wanted to remind you of that. Just because they say that it's 6 points or 7 points doesn't mean it's not 1 touchdown. So, it's too low. They don't score enough. If every hockey goal is worth 5, you'd think it's the greatest sport of all time then. Riveting. Absolutely riveting. Good enough to stay up until midnight on the West Coast for. Do you know how good you have to be as a sports product to get me to stay up until midnight on the West Coast? Hawaii football can't do that for me anymore. You know how many Wazoo, Utah football games I've fallen asleep to on a Saturday night in the fall? Like all of them. Every week it's the same. It's Utah and Washington State. And every Saturday I fall asleep on the couch at like 11 p.m. because I might have about 12 Michelob Ultras in me from watching football all day, and because it's a 4.5-hour long game. If neither of the teams in a Pac-12 football game on a Saturday in the fall scored for multiple overtimes, I'd be turning that stuff off so quickly. Instead, I'm ruining my week of sleep. I'm setting my schedule way off because I got to see what happens between the Panthers and the Hurricanes. Stanley Cup playoffs is a drug. You can't quit it. The playoffs of basketball have been really good, too. Don't get me wrong. Warriors notwithstanding, like, it's been really good stuff. Add in the Giants playing good ball, I can get behind this. That said, when we were looking at like 4 sweeps across playoff hockey and playoff basketball, I was getting a little worried. So I said it out loud. I can't believe it. Go Celtics. I mean, I hope they lose. I hope they lose, but if they want to go 7 for my entertainment, I wouldn't fight them on it. Oh, by the way, I mentioned we got playoff hockey, we got playoff basketball, we got the Giants playing good ball, and we have San Francisco 49ers football. They're playing 2-hand touch in Santa Clara, folks. And the great Matt Barrows. I was there too, but we're going to talk to Matt Barrows about it on the other side. All things 49ers football. We'll do that in just a little bit. Your call's always welcome. 808 KNBR. Anything pique your interest there with Danny Emmerman? I mean, are we starting to sell you a little bit on Giants hope? Do we got a little bit of selfless Giants action happening for you? 808 KNBR is the number. Appreciate you guys watching on YouTube and Twitch. Text line's open as well. Kurtenbach until 11 on the Sports Leader.
pitch. Ruff swings. It's a high, deep drive out to right center. It's hit well. Yastrzemski back on the track. Yaz leaps, and Yastrzemski makes the catch. What a play, Mike Yastrzemski. He takes a homer away from Darren Ruff, his former teammate.
Listen to the sports leader anywhere, anytime. Download the all-new KNBR app. Now, KNBR Tonight continues live from the KNBR Casino Matrix Studio. Casino Matrix Progressive Jackpots are here. Where are you? Just drop in. Please play responsibly. 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hey, yo, back with you on the leader. Dieter Kurtenbach until 11 p.m. We'll do the best of KNBR today on KNBR Tonight in just a little bit, and we'll check in with Matt Barrows regarding 49ers OTAs. We'll be able to get in there next Wednesday and Thursday as well, I am being told. And by that, I mean I got an email like 15 minutes ago. I'm looking, talking to Danny Emmerman. He says, hey, wild card, it's a possibility. No one's ever really discounted the possibility. It's just it was a harder sell when the Giants were sucking something fierce in the middle of the season, but to date. But you look at the National League, there's some damn good baseball teams. We got to be fair about that. It is loaded. You got the Brewers at top of the National League Central. Wouldn't be shocked at all if that held, because I don't think the Cubs are really a contender. The Cardinals have been terrible this year. I don't know if that's going to hold, but I don't feel like there's some juggernaut in waiting. The damage they're doing now might be damage that does them in when it's all said and done. The Mets haven't been great. They feel disjointed. I still think that they're a better than 500 team. Maybe not by the 20-something games that their billionaire owner wants them to be, but they're probably a 90-win team. Probably closer to 87 than they are to 93, though. You got the Braves. The Braves are the real deal. It's just the Braves are a machine. They're awesome. They're really, really awesome. Acuna's awesome. Olsen's awesome. They really should not be allowed to do trades with the A's anymore. I don't know about the Phillies. I don't trust their rotation. They have the batters, but Trey Turner has been terrible. And then you say, oh, well, he's Trey Turner. He'll figure it out. But he's chasing everything. And I don't know when that's going to stop. Right? It is an adjustment that can be made, but it's not an easy adjustment. Oh, just stop chasing pitches. Like, that is a result of a lot of things getting out of whack. It's one thing if you're putting the ball in play and you're not getting lucky. It's one thing if you're barreling it up. It's another thing when you are swinging and missing. And again, it can change tomorrow. But he's got a long way to get back to just average. And that lineup has a lot of guys who are underperforming. Maybe they're going to go on an absolute tear, but it feels to me as if the Phillies are a flawed team, and that without Rhys Hoskins, they lack the glue that they really need as a lineup. Maybe I'm overanalyzing it. The Marlins are a 500 team. Don't worry about the Marlins. I like the Diamondbacks a lot. I think the Diamondbacks are a really fun and interesting team. I really worry about their starting pitching. That said, 8 games over 500, don't count them out. And the Padres are going to get better. I mean, Bob Melvin's too good of a manager. They have too much talent, though it is really enjoyable to watch Manny Machado suck. They're too good to not be in the thick of it. So the Giants have a lot of competition for the 6 total playoff spots. As of right now, I mean, Pittsburgh holds one, so how serious can we be about baseball at this moment if the Pittsburgh Pirates are in a wild card spot? The Mets are in one, and there are the San Francisco Giants, 25-25, half a game back of a wild card spot. They're in the thick of it, baby. And by the way, if they're 50-50, they're in the thick of it. And if they're 75-75, I think they're still in the thick of it. They can play 500 baseball for months and be just fine. They have to finish strong. No matter what, they have to finish strong. They did not start strong, so they got to finish strong. It's the only way they're making the playoffs. But it's very easy to see. And if, oh, by the way, along the way, they're able to get you pumped up about the future of this team. They give you some guys that you feel like you can buy into long term. Now we're cooking with gas. Has that been outlawed in the city? I don't know. But you got something going there. The skillet is hot. Let's put it that way. We'll see. We'll see. But this 500 feels very different from the other kind of 500 that we saw all of last year, where we were just begging for relief. Suck or do something big. Do anything. Just don't give us 81 and 81 again. If they go 81 and 81 this year, the way that they're playing currently, with Schmidt and Bailey and the bullpen being really strong and young arms, and okay, add a couple more to the mix, right? Give me some Kyle Harrison later in the season. Give me some Luciano. Like, now we're cooking. Now we got something you can sink your teeth into. And now you go into the 2024 season where everyone's like, look out for those Giants. The Giants are the team on the up. I like the sound of that. I like being the upstart team. It's a lot of fun trying to ruin everyone's party. It's not so much fun fighting tooth and nail and knowing that your ceiling is like 85 wins and that every year you have to rebuild. Give me what the Giants are doing now, all day, every day. They got the big Mo on their team right now. That's momentum. We're talking macro momentum. Gotta love it. I don't know if the San Francisco 49ers have momentum. I will say this. They got some quarterbacks. They got a whole mess of quarterbacks. And I don't think that their quarterback situation is going to be solved over the summer, in training camp. It might not be figured out by the time we get to week 3 or 4 of the season. It's a mess. It's the best kind of mess. For a team that had no quarterbacks at the end of the year, they are in a good spot. That said, there's some stuff we got to figure out with this team. And the best person to do it with, Matt Barrows of The Athletic. He and I were both down at OTAs. We're gonna find out what's what with these San Francisco 49ers as they play two-hand touch in Santa Clara. Matty Barrows coming up next, and the best of KNBR today on KNBR Tonight. After that, Kurtenbach until 11 p.m. on The Sports Leader.
sports leader anywhere, anytime. Download the all-new KNBR app. Now, KNBR Tonight continues live from the KNBR Casino Matrix Studio. Casino Matrix Progressive Jackpots are here. Where are you? Just drop in. Please play responsibly. 1-800-GAMBLER.
We're back with you, KNBR Tonight. Dieter Kurtenbach hanging out with you till who the hell knows when. We're very happy to be joined now by the great Matt Barrows of The Athletic. You know him. He covers the San Francisco 49ers like no one else can. He joins us now on the UMA guest line. Matt, it's OTA time. I know that you've had this circled on your calendar for a long time. What were your impressions just being back out on a football field after some days off?
Yeah, I have an advent calendar that ticks down the days until the first OTA practice. So it's a big event in my household. My impressions were, I thought that the young guys, and that's what the OTAs are for. We didn't see very many marquee players out there. George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey were the two exceptions, but this is for second-year players, rookies. They're all learning the offense. They're learning the defense. Both are getting installed at this point. And I thought a few of them stood out. And there were some newcomers who jumped out to me. Isaiah Oliver, the new nickel cornerback. No Jimmy Ward this year. It's the first time you could say that since 2014. He was the graybeard, the longest tenured 49er. And so Isaiah Oliver is stepping into his spot, and I was just struck by how big he was. That's usually a spot that goes to a smaller guy. I kind of picture a K'Wan Williams. K'Wan Williams was maybe 175. This guy's 205. He's 6 feet tall, really long arms, and he was all over the field on Tuesday, breaking up passes, and he probably looked the best out of everybody. But Braden Willis, a rookie tight end, 7th round pick from Oklahoma, had a nice catch. I thought Ronnie Bell, Michigan receiver, another 7th rounder, looked good. I mean, he's hit the ground running. It seems like he's got a shot at making the roster this year, at least compete for a spot. So I thought it was a good showing from a lot of the young 49ers.
It seems as if the next few months are all going to be about the quarterback position, and that makes some sense given the fact that the 49ers have 3 dudes who have started in the NFL last year. One of them, Brock Purdy, is the most injured. We don't know necessarily when he's going to be back. I believe both Shanahan and him on Wednesday said that he should throw a football next week. Where is that in his recovery process, as you understand?
Well, it's just about where he should be. I think it's actually a couple of days ahead of schedule. I mean, when I looked at the calendar, when he had the surgery on March 10, it was supposed to be 6 weeks. From then is when he can start throwing the football. And I just remember early June as the date that I thought in my mind. And here we are. Next week will officially be early June, I think the end of the week, but I think he's going to start throwing that ball earlier. So right on schedule, basically. So if that's the case, and then kind of we stick to the 6-month plan for him to be ready, we're talking about late August, and that means we're talking about the end of training camp, where he starts to where he's back in fall, where he's able to kind of go through a full practice. So the first game is September 10, so we're talking about 2 weeks. Can he get up to speed? Can he get ready? Can he be running this offense in 2 weeks? And the lesson we've learned about Brock Purdy is that he's a quick study. He can do it. So I think everybody is optimistic that is going to be the case. That would save the 49ers a lot of sort of consternation and second guessing, because if he's not ready by September 10, and let's say that Trey Lance starts that game and Trey Lance looks great, then all of a sudden the 49ers have a quarterback controversy on their hands.
It seems as if Kyle revels in the mess that this could be, though. Obviously, it's a long ways away, week 1, but there is a very real situation where, hey, let's just say Sam Darnold comes out and just rips it in training camp, and more importantly, in preseason games. Lance, we can talk about this in a second, but he looked good in those, these OTA practices, whatever that's worth. And we know what Brock Purdy did last year, but it did seem as if Kyle was a bit gleeful about how many good, perhaps not great, but good quarterbacks he has on this team.
Yeah, I think it's just numbers for him. I mean, this is a guy that watched his team end the season with 0 quarterbacks. So, they've got 5 guys. If you count Jack Coletto, the fullback who started out as a quarterback in college, they've got 5 guys who could finish a game for them, and I think that's the most important thing. The 49ers are throwing numbers at that position, knowing what their injury history is. That to me is the big deal. I watched Brock Purdy in 8 games. He got hurt in 2 of them. I watched Trey Lance start 4 games. He got hurt in 2 of those. 50% of the games that Trey Lance has started, he's gotten hurt in, and that's not even counting a preseason game in which he broke his finger. So both of these guys have shown, and Jimmy Garoppolo, you can add that to the list, but the recent experience of 49ers quarterbacks is that those guys cannot make it through a full season. And so history shows that they're going to use multiple quarterbacks this year, and hopefully it'll only be 1 or 2. I don't think Shanahan wants to take any chances with that.
Talking to the great Matt Barrows of The Athletic. What does Sam Darnold get out of all of this? Obviously an opportunity, right? They're going to talk about competition and the ability to earn playing time and this and that. And I know the new Brock Purdy rule allows for the 49ers to carry him sort of penalty-free on the day-to-day roster if the depth chart remains Purdy 1, Lance 2, and Darnold 3. But you'd have to think that there was at least a bona fide backup job for this guy at some place in the NFL, and yet here he is in Santa Clara looking like he might be a third string. What is he getting out of this?
I mean, he's getting to play for Kyle Shanahan, and he's only signed for a year, so I think he sees this as a stopover, and then he's going to be in more demand next free agent period. But, this league, when Shanahan came in, it was Shanahan, his offense, and he was the only one running it.
Right.
And then McVay started doing it in Los Angeles with the Rams, and so on and so forth. Even guys who haven't worked with Shanahan now, head coaches in Minnesota and in Cincinnati, are running a variation of it. So learning this system is a big deal. A, because it's a popular system to run, and B, it kind of creates more opportunities for you. If half the league is running it, then half the teams could use a guy who has studied under the master of it,
yes,
Kyle Shanahan. So I think that's the real lure. And then, of course, what I just said about the injury history, I'm sure Sam Darnold's agent, and I can't name that person off the top of my head, but I'm sure they looked at him and said to themselves, well, both of those young guys have gotten hurt quite a bit. There seems to be a good chance that you could be a starter at some point during the 23 season.
Along those same lines, the Niners obviously did all of their work in the draft in the later rounds, so nobody who was drafted then is really expected to be an impact week 1 player. But I look at the right tackle situation. I will say this. I mean, OTAs are good for one thing. You get to make notes on who looks a little different. Of course, not having a great memory of what they looked like before. But Colton McKivitz looks a little different. He looks a little bit more like a tackle, at least to me. I presume you believe he's the guy to beat at right tackle. What's that competition look like with Mike McGlinchey gone now?
Yeah, I don't think that there's as much competition as we think there is. I mean, I liken it to the Jake Brendel situation from a year ago.
Right.
I mean, this time last year, we were thinking to ourselves, there's no way they're just handing Jake Brendel. Is it Brendel or DLE? I mean, I had to check the first 15 times I wrote it.
That's right.
Just how anonymous this guy was. And he's going to be the starting center, given how important Kyle Shanahan considers that.
Where's Ben Garland when you need him, right?
Exactly. I was calling up Ben Garland to see whether he had in fact retired, because he was the guy the year before. But my point is that Chris Foerster, I think Shanahan, he's the right hand man. When Mike McDaniel left for Miami, Foerster became the guy that Shanahan leans on the most. And so Foerster liked Brendel, thought that he could do it, and you know what? He was proven right. And so I think something similar is happening at right tackle this year with McKivitz, that Foerster believes in him, and if Foerster believes in him, then Shanahan does as well. And the other options are Jalen Moore and Matt Pryor. And both of them are fine, but in talking to people around the organization, they like McKivitz. And he's not as athletic, he's not as big as Mike McGlinchey, but he is one of these guys that really doesn't get fazed by much. He can roll with the punches. He's not going to psych himself out. He did basically the same thing at West Virginia. He came in, was going to sit behind the upperclassmen for a while, and then in the very first game, the upperclassman suffers an ACL. He has to go in there and play left tackle for basically the rest of his career there, and did a nice job at it. So he's sort of used to those situations. He's got certainly more run-up this time, but he's got that sort of unflappable nature that you need to have at that spot.
Are you surprised that the Niners didn't do much of anything at offensive line, spot on the offensive line in the draft? That seemed like if nothing else, have a better backup option for a McKivitz. Give yourself some leeway in the future. Given the way the draft went, did that surprise you at all?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, going into that draft, they had those 3 third-round picks, and I would have bet money that one of them would have been an offensive tackle, and maybe not a guy that was going to be stepping in week 1 to be the starter, but certainly somebody that they were grooming for that spot. Shanahan's point is that the lateness of their picks, plus the amount of time that it takes to turn one of these guys into a starter, just made it unrealistic for them. They didn't think that there was any guy kind of worth the effort of doing that. So we'll have to kind of see. I mean, there were some guys, and there were a bunch. There was maybe 3 or 4 who were taken in that span just after the 49ers made their 3 picks. So we'll have to follow their careers. Blake Freeland was one. Wanya Morris from Oklahoma was another. A couple of other guys. If any of those guys become Pro Bowlers, then and the 49ers struggle, then that was a miss. That was a miscalculation. But I think it really goes back to the fact that the college game is not developing these guys like it used to.
Absolutely.
And so it just takes a long time. The 49ers did spend a lot of draft picks the previous 2 years. Aaron Banks, Spencer Burford, Nick Sakel. They brought in Jason Poe. After the draft on some prominent offensive linemen. And right now, they're just now sort of getting to the stage where they can start to think about some of these guys competing for spots.
A guy that they did take in the 3rd round, Jake Moody, the kicker out of Michigan. I know that taking a kicker in the 3rd round has gotten plenty of internet jokes written. I would like to think that if you can't take your team's leading scorer in the 3rd round, it makes sense to me, is what I'm trying to say. Let me ask you this, though. Zane Gonzalez is still hanging around. He's on the roster. Is he just trying to get some preseason kicks in so that he can latch on with the team? Like, is there a chance that Jake Moody isn't the dude, or is he certainly the guy?
Barring an injury, he's certainly the guy. I think the 49ers are holding on to Gonzalez because one of the reasons they had to take Moody in the 3rd round is that there were 6-7 teams that were looking at kickers in this draft, and that's maybe double a normal draft. So there are a lot of teams looking for kickers, and you just saw it today. The Jaguars dealt one of their extra kickers for a late round pick, and so that's how the 49ers acquired Zane Gonzalez, conditional 7th rounder in 2025. The thinking, my thought or my guess is that the thinking is that if they hold on to Zane Gonzalez, then someone's going to be looking for a kicker, and they can get that conditional pick, maybe something a little bit better, back at some point.
Flipping a conditional 7th rounder in 25 to a conditional 6th rounder in 2024. That's some Farhan Zaidi action right there. That's some real baseball arbitrage.
Well, I mean, do you want to trade away your potential Mr. Irrelevant in 2025 given what that guy did in 2022?
There's got to be some insane conditions on these things too. Like if the weather is a certain temperature on this day, and if Matt Barrows comes on at 8:20. Okay, what have we seen so far? And we've only been out there one day. What do we know about Steve Wilks and how the defense will look under him compared to the last two guys who ran pretty similar schemes, kind of cover three base and then got a little bit more multiple as they got more comfortable. What are we expecting from Wilkes?
Yeah, I mean, the evolution of it from Sala to D'Amico Ryans is that the defenses got a little bit more aggressive each time, a little bit more press coverage, a little bit more blitzing, and I think judging from what he says, it's gonna happen even more, and it might even be a more prominent step in that direction. He's talking about cornerbacks blitzing. Haven't really seen that very much from the 49ers. Safeties blitzing. We saw that a little bit from Talanoa Hufanga last year. So, I mean, I think he really wants to play press coverage, take advantage of the 49ers pass rush, take advantage of Nick Bosa, and really kind of disrupt the rhythm of the opposing offense. But, I think that Ryans wanted to do that as well and just didn't end up playing it as much as he intended. So sometimes the intentions don't match exactly what happens. We'll have to keep an eye on that. And that's sort of a big deal. And to me, that's one of the question marks on this team. Bosa is not a question mark, but the guy playing opposite him is. We don't know who that's going to be yet, but we do know that they think that they could get a little bit more pass rush from that bookend spot. And so they're looking for a Drake Jackson to make a jump. They drafted Robert Beal Jr. in the 5th round, Cleveland Farrell, et cetera, et cetera. So they want one of those guys to step up.
Were you surprised to see McCaffrey and Kittle at OTAs, given that it would seem to me a prudent move would be to put Christian McCaffrey in some sort of cryogenic chamber? And George Kittle doesn't even practice soft, so I don't know what kind of padding you can put on him in addition to the NFL-sanctioned stuff, but you definitely don't want that dude tweaking something before he goes and rips weights all summer and does tight end U